My wife bought it for me, so everything's changed. I'm learning it. I'm not like this kid. Automatically go in and have no fear. Well, I'm not too bad on it, but there are some things like this, I really haven't had time to sit down and work with it, I've had it for weeks.
Hey, you. How are you? He's part of our class, too.
How many books in your class?
I don't even remember
That's been
Yeah, right.
You got a cold or? That's what Carol's got. The doctor said 5 year drops. She did that, and you feel it going down her heart.
I've been asked that. Terry's had it. Yeah.
I printed it, but I didn't grab it off my printer.
I got it.
They're all
So next month, stand there. You don't have to. I got to do it. Just as good. You had me convinced. I was like, man, I did you. You don't remember that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking I need tomorrow.
You were very busy. I was sitting on I'm all good with that.
I just can't believe this happening so hard. It's such a huge concept.
I do the same thing.
I just wanted to know who was missing.
That would cost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I'll call the meeting to order. First thing is prayer given by Barb Bennett. Barb's not here. Do I have a volunteer to give the prayer tonight? Rod, would you volunteer? Thank you very much.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and Father, we just praise you and give you honor and glory for who you are. Father, tonight we just lift up this meeting, and Father, we just pray for wisdom, guidance, direction in everything that we do and that we say. And we thank you for this great country of America. And Father, we just bless you and thank you in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jessica, would you do the roll call?
Kenny Barr. Robert Bennett. Mark Bennett.
Here.
Teresa Bain. Here. Paul Canada. Here. Brian Hoffman.
Here.
Dennis Gernovich.
Here.
Jesse Durbin.
Here.
Julie Edwards. Here. Gary Gergany.
Here.
Rod Height.
Here.
Larry Lenz.
Yes.
Robert Orman.
Here.
Gary Patterson.
Here.
Derek Piercy.
Here.
John Pope.
Here.
Robert Simpson.
Here.
Jeff Slifer.
Here.
David Switz.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Lynn Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum. Number 4 on the agenda item, I've been told there is nobody to appoint yet for district number 4, so we'll just move on through it. Oh, we did not approve minutes. I marked it off first and didn't even approve them. I'm sorry. The minutes from last meeting was in your packet. Any changes, corrections? Have a motion to approve last month's minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second. Carried. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Sorry I jumped that. Like I said, the next one, there's nobody to be appointed yet. We'll move on to public body comments. One thing I would request is just give us a name. It doesn't have to be a full name, just the first name's fine with me. I'll open up public body comment now. Derek? Yes, sir.
All right. Just to be clear, this is not me as a board member. I'm going to stand over here for a public comment, okay? Everybody understand? Yes. So I want to share a story, kind of why I'm here. It's about last year sometime, some sort of government agency decided to send some employees of the county to my business to tell me I wasn't allowed to work. My family wasn't allowed to be there in my own place of business. Something seemed broken at that point in time when that happened. And I thought, it's probably time to get involved and see what's going on, right? And I made notes because I have a lot of thoughts. So I kind of wanted to see what was going on, what was broken, what could be fixed, what the problem was. It's been about a year since I started, doing this other job over here. And the problem I seen, the biggest problem was me, or people like me. Paid no attention at all to what was going on. I had no idea. This is the first time I've ever done public comment at a county board, actually. Didn't pay attention to anything. And we had people telling my family we weren't allowed to do what we wanted to do. I have a 9-year-old son that's completely fearless. It's things that keep people from being able to accomplish something. It's fear a lot of times. If you can switch that off, man, you can do anything. I have an 11-year-old daughter that could probably come in here and actually lead this meeting. It's pretty impressive. And if she's seen anybody in here a week later, she'd recognize you and probably could tell you what you were even wearing, too. Has an amazing memory. My wife, not to offend anybody in here, but she could run circles around you guys as far as running business, creative problem solving. Just amazing. She's hands down one of the best instructors, teachers in the county, I guarantee it. I'll tell you a little story. My family moved out to the country 6 years ago, and we were looking for a nice place to build. And one of the stipulations we had was, hey, this has to be in Shelbyville School District, because this is our hometown. And so we found a place, and the first question we asked, and they said, yeah, our kids always went to Shelbyville, but the line is somewhere in our yard. Okay, not sure if I like that answer, so I called the school, said, call this place in Charleston, which I now know is the ROE. Called them, and the story I got was, well, if you have 2 parcels and it's kind of in your yard and it's both, you're probably fine, wouldn't worry about it. Now, a month or so ago, there was a report that was filed against my family that said that we weren't in district, okay? The answer I got last time, I went to go try to find that answer again. Are we or are we not? Where's the line at? Is my house in it? Is it not in it? The answer I got was normal, broken. checked with our clerk, and that's not your job to supply that information. I knew that, but I asked our clerk, I asked our assessor, can you provide me a school district map? They said, nope, check with the ROE. We don't have that stuff. Guess what the ROE tells me? We don't have it. Check with the clerk, check with the assessor. Nobody seems to know where any of this stuff is at. So I'm assuming just because of something that was voted for or against, somebody tried to hit me over whatever that was. I don't know, it doesn't matter to me. But you missed. You hit my kids. You hit their friends, their parents, their teachers, their own community. Last week my kids were voted out of the Shelbyville School District because I couldn't prove where the school district line is at. I also can't get evidence of where it's at either. It may be in there, maybe not. I don't know. It's just kind of another example of government inefficiency that I've seen. And then you get to the next problem is I don't know how we're at the point where adults can't have a conversation or policy disagreement in a room without being willing to destroy their kids' lives. I don't know how we got there. It's my kids this time. Might be your kids next time. Maybe you go to a board meeting, maybe you say something somebody don't like, maybe they call in who knows what, maybe they call DCFS, I don't know what it'll be. I thought a lot about what I would say to the person that did that for a month and a half. And right before we got here, there was a girl that tested for black belt, or I'll tell the short here. A girl that tested for black belt over here, and she said one of the things, and she gave a speech in this room full of people, said one of the things that she learned was to be respectful to her family, even sometimes when she didn't want to. And yeah, I mean that just kind of resonated with me. This is my family here. This is where I'm from. So freedom's not free, and unfortunately, my kids know that very well.
Any more public body comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Carol,
Thank you.
and this is concerning item number 14. So I would just like to urge all of you to support this petition that's been circulating for the past few months by myself and several others in Shelby County. I'm not a public speaker, so excuse me if I... Yeah. So hopefully this petition will go before the Illinois General Assembly, and it states, in case you haven't read it, I'm sure most of you had, it says, upon majority vote, the county board may lease farmland acquired or held by the county for any term not exceeding 99 years. Such farms or acreage may be rented or leased to either public or private entities for the public purpose of financially supporting the operations of government at such time or times and on such terms and conditions, including crop sharing arrangements as the board deems best for the interest of the county. I know we've had the support of the Farm Bureau because we got 100 signatures from the Farm Bureau, and to date we have almost 600 signatures for this petition. The signatures that I personally have collected are not just Shelby County. I've had people come in from the Chicago area, from Christian, Moultrie, Sangamon, Cumberland, Jackson, Richland, Effingham, and Fayette County, just to name a few. I've had support from the city and county officials and hope that we have your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public body comment? Yes, you may. Martha?
Yeah, my name's Martha. Number one, I want to say to Derek, my heart breaks for you and your family. There are no words, and I think it is sad and pathetic and ridiculous that we are to that point in our society where adults can't be adults and have to do those kinds of things. And maybe someday the truth about who started all that will come out, so we all know. I'd like to speak to item number 9 on the agenda regarding the termination of the West County contract. I've been coming to county board meetings for the better part of 3 years now. I think this is the second CPA firm that does these kind of audits that's no longer going to be handling them. It's my understanding, at least for the 3 years I've been coming to meetings, that the board has refused to address the recommendations that the previous firm and that this firm has made. And I think that's probably why this contract is not going to go into the optional 3rd year. I'd just like you all to consider the fact that at some point, if our reputation becomes so bad that the reputable CPA firms do not want to do business with us, that we end up with a lower level firm, And because they know they might be the only one or two that would bid on taking the job on, that drives up the price for the taxpayers. I think rather than looking at the CPA firms and making comments about them and what they do, they're the professionals. I think we should start taking into consideration the recommendations that they're making, especially when those recommendations are repeated year after year after year. And we should start to, I'd like to see you all work together to start to address those recommendations rather than us changing auditors every couple of years. Thank you.
Any more public body? Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I want to address that, the proposed leasing of the county-owned farmland, the petition that the lady spoke of. I want to refer back to comments that were in the letter that you got from the Attorney General, and I quote, "When the General Assembly expressly authorizes the county to lease county property to a private entity, there is a presumption that a proper public purpose exists. The reason there is that presumption is that the Constitution still applies, and any adopted law must conform to the Constitution. When it doesn't, that law can be declared unconstitutional. According to the Illinois Constitution annotated for legislatures," so where it outlines everything in an annotation with case law, and case law is important no matter how old it is, as long as it's not been ruled negatively and it still stands. In that document, a position that making money from the ground constitutes a public purpose is wrong. And I will quote from that on page 127. "Those several Attorney General opinions have addressed leasing of county-owned real estate to other persons or organizations. These opinions advise that not only must such leases be for adequate consideration to the county, but the use to which the leasee puts the property must itself benefit the public." And they give an example, such as providing space for other units of government. The fix is a constitutional amendment, not trying to weasel around the law, because the Constitution is the block right now. And the annotated Constitution document for legislators spells this out extremely well, and they give case law to support it. There's tons of records on this. The only other question I have, and I don't know how many folks are looking at this, it came up several months ago, but in the county statute regarding funds of the county office of county officials, your sheriff resigned. In that statute, it says the audit shall be filed with the county board not later than 180 days after the official leaves office. That 180 days is in the month of December, I believe. Have we even started an audit for that office? And I'm not talking the forensic audit. I'm talking the audit for that office since he resigned. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Public body, any others? Any other public body? Yes, ma'am.
Marcia, I want to say also, Mr. Piercy, I'm really sorry for how you were treated. I thought you lived in the United States, and I'm ashamed of us in Shelby County. And the truth will come out. I want to say I've been attending meetings minus 3 for Health since February of 2019, after the Edgar County dogs were here and pointed out some things to us that were amiss. I'm also embarrassed to say, have we really addressed any of them? Have we really changed? Are we trying to do legal or just keep up with the good old boy system? That's one heavy-set older woman's opinion. Taxpayer and earth.
Any other public body? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sandra, and it's about article number 14. And I was wondering if, why is it so illegal for Shelby County if there's 40 other counties in the state of Illinois that have land that they're leasing and getting money off of? That's just a question.
Thank you. Any other public body comment? Any other public body comment? Any other public body comment? Seeing none, we'll move forward to number 6. Discussion and vote on registering the domain name of shelbycounty.il.gov as required by SB 0825 10 ILCS 5118. Basically saying that we need to, we're going to be forced to go to this .gov on all our stuff. And yes, we are wanting to move forward with some type of website and things like that. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and I'm working on things. This is the first step towards being able to do that. It's going to be a mandate. We need to get it done. David Woods from MyTech. Yes, sir. Do you have anything to add to this?
It's just being mandated by the state that you do that.
And this would be the easiest thing that we could use. I mean, right now I think we're Shelby County.
-il.com. So this,
Hopefully nobody else has taken this. Hopefully it's still available.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a great thing for us to take and make sure that we have that name as our domain.
It would also change your email addresses to a .gov, so everybody would have their, basically your email address will stay the same, it would just change from .com at the end to .gov. If you don't have an email address, that's at Shelby County. You'll have to get one, we'll have to get one set up for you. Basically, it's an alias, so both addresses will still be there for a while until everybody gets notified, and the .com will go away. Same thing on the website. Right now, it's ShelbyCountyIL.com. What's there for a website would stay there until you get a new one developed, but .com or .gov, either one, would go to the same place. It's just an alias, is all it is.
And I would highly recommend everybody on board to get one of those Shelby County IL emails.
Correct.
I would highly recommend it.
There's paperwork that Jessica has to fill out, or somebody has to fill out for the county, because you have to prove that you're a government entity in the state of Illinois. There's a lot of documentation you have to provide to them.
For the .gov part of it?
Okay. That's probably, that may have to come to the state's attorney's office, I'm not sure, but there's forms we have to fill out, send in, it has to be approved, you get a form back to sign, somebody from the county will have to sign it, and then they will release the name, register the name to you, and will release it for us to be able to go ahead and continue with building the site and stuff.
Wonderful.
It takes probably 30 to 45 days after you guys make the approval.
Would somebody like make a motion to do this? Mark makes a motion. John seconds. Any discussion on this? I think we kind of took care of most of the discussion already.
One of the things I want to add to that too, I'm not sure, we need to find out if the health department and the highway department is also going to be covered by that mandate. I'm not sure what that mandate covers county-wide as far as county offices. That's something I'll have to find out when you do your inquiry.
I'm sure we can find that
Because all
out.
it says is, government offices, it doesn't specifically say sheriff's office, or just the clerk's office. So that's something that needs to be clarified.
I'm sure we can find that out somewhere. Thank you. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dave, for your input. Okay, next up is Denny. Consideration of and vote on proclamation recognizing the charitable contributions of Shelbyville VFW Post 4829.
My wife and I have lived in Shelby County since '09, and since that time we've been a member of, let's say, the VFW 4829 family, and I've come to be aware of everything that they do for all the veterans, and I think we can all agree on what the veterans have done for all of us in this county and this country. You know, that goes without saying. But I've been checking around, and I called some places up in Springfield. I didn't know this, but Illinois actually has a department of VFW in Springfield. And I called there, and the words that they use describing this post here are words like stellar, outstanding, over and above. But to go on a little bit further, I got with our chief legal advice, our state's attorney, and I thank you for everything that you do. And she's written a proclamation. If I could have the clerk read that, and then I would make a motion for its approval.
Proclamation recognizing the Shelbyville VFW Post 4829. Whereas throughout our nation's history, our brave men and women of the military have stepped forward to protect our county, and whereas we are grateful to all those who have donned our nation's uniform and to their families, and we will always remember their service and sacrifice for our freedom, and whereas the Shelbyville VFW Post 4829, chartered on November 5th, 1945, has served the citizens of Shelby County by providing many charitable contributions to the community, including sponsoring children's Christmas and Halloween parties, donating funds for vets' living assistance, donating funds to Shelbyville Girls Traveling High School softball team, sponsoring the Shelbyville High School wrestling team dinner, providing VFW color guard, providing flag disposal service, providing honor guards for funerals of veterans, sponsoring Boy Scouts troops, sponsoring veterans dinner on an annual and sometimes monthly basis, providing food for first responder dinner, sponsoring military honor flags, sponsoring a chili cook-off, sponsoring a soldier and dogs program, selling poppies to support veterans programs, placing flags at graves of veterans at local cemetery with the American Legion, sponsoring Shelbyville High School prom and homecoming breakfast, sponsoring sports banquets for wrestling and football teams, sponsoring academic scholarships, sponsoring first responder meal for 9/11 terrorist attack, donating 2 flagpoles to the city park, donating warm-up uniforms for Shelbyville High School basketball team, donating concession stand for VFW Ball Diamond Little League, donating VFW concession stand men's softball diamond, donating to Ronald McDonald Charity, donating to Shelbyville High School Association Rodeo, donating to Eternal Memorial Flame. Whereas the Shelby County Board recognizes and praises the valiant efforts and contributions of Shelbyville VFW Post 4829, be it resolved that the Shelby County Board duly convened and acting in its capacity as the governing body of Shelby County commends the members of Shelbyville VFW Post 4829 by this proclamation in recognition of their dedication, past and present, to the community of Shelby County.
I'll second that.
Got a motion made by Denny. Lynn has seconded it. Any discussion? Sounds like they do a wonderful job of being a leader in the VFW and the state, sounds like, and doing everything they should and helping, and it's wonderful.
Nothing's more important than the veterans in this country.
I agree.
I agree with Denny, and I think it's a great thing. But have we done this in the past? Should we look at somebody to set some basic rules that groups could apply for recognition from the county? I don't want us handling it, other than if we had some guidelines as to what we're going to recognize. My biggest concern is problems that come up in the past when you recognize this group. What are we? Maybe if we made some, even a community group that would make up some general rules that we would expect organizations to meet, and the county recognize them. I'm all for what Denny's doing. I think it's a great organization, but we have American Legions and we have all kinds of other groups that I want them all that's out there working to get recognition when it's possible. And maybe
You're
not
saying
interfere
some,
with this
like
one.
some
Maybe
type
we
of
could
decorum?
set
You're saying some type of decorum that?
Yeah, we don't have to set a committee, but just a group. That
Right, it could be sent to a committee though,
To make
if I
some
choose a
rules.
committee that would fit this, to maybe,
just to protect us
you know,
in the future.
investigate or, you know, see what they could come up with. Might not be a bad idea. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, I was looking for that in my email, I couldn't find it. John Vanderberg, update in progress of the payroll audit of the Sheriff's Office. John, have the floor. You can, I would stay somewhere in that area unless you need a table, and you're welcome to come up here and
Perfectly fine.
place things down.
Sure. So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to kind of understand where we're at in terms of the ongoing audit of the Sheriff's Department. We've gone through mountains of information. I kind of want to let you know that I realize there's been a lot of discussion about problems and issues, and I want you to take seriously the fact that there are problems and issues that need to be resolved. I can say that what I did tonight was I wanted to kind of give an example of one employee who's going to nameless at this point. And what we did was we looked at all these different problems, and we'll go through some of those in detail here. And we tried to say, let's quantify the errors that existed on this one employee for 1 year and see what it comes up to. And this particular employee, the amount of error in 1 year for this person was, the net value was $17,753.99. Now, that doesn't mean you owe him or he owes you. That's to say that is the amount of the errors we came up with on one employee for 1 year.
Can you repeat that number, please?
$17,753.99. On that one employee, we had 20 instances of errors over that year. Now, if we extrapolate that to you had 252 W-2 forms during the audit period. That would say you had 252 opportunities for this type of error. Now, if you would extrapolate that error to those people, that would come up to error of $4.4 million and 5,000 errors that existed. Now, that's not all one way. Some of those are in one way and some are in an opposite way. But I want to get your attention to say, this is a sizable issue that needs to be addressed. And I know that there was a lot of discussion about whether it should or shouldn't. And I just want to say there's a lot of legitimacy to there being errors within how things have been done. One of the things I wanted to illustrate kind of was like, what are some of the top issues that we came across in terms of kind of what's been going on. So everywhere that I have a yellow tab on this is a provision within your contract. So this is a contract between the Illinois FOP Labor Council and the County of Shelby and the Shelby County Sheriff. And this contract spells out very specifically the relationship between the county and the staff. And so some of the top issues, that we just found that, for instance, in one section it talks about holiday pay. It says that if an employee works on a holiday, basically they either get paid time and a half, or they get to earn comp time at time and a half. So ironically, whenever these employees would work, they were working a 10-hour shift, and yet when they were paid as though they worked 8 hours. And so you have short paid them, or whenever they had comp time, they were earning comp time of time and a half on an 8-hour shift when they worked 10. You guys owe them money for that based on your contract. Vacation time, it says that they're eligible for vacation after completion of 1 year of service, and thereafter an employee's service date shall be the anniversary date of his or her hire. You guys don't do that. You do it on a calendar year. These are easy things to notice and change. Sick days will be granted at the rate of 1 sick day per month of service. That's not happening. You're doing it all on January 1st. The next section below says nobody will be permitted to take leave if it has not yet been earned. People have gone deficit on their sick leave. This one is the one that I think is most humorous. Humor is not the right word to use. In the contract that covers the years 2015 through 2017, Jessica provided this to me. What was filed within the system here is to talk about the pay schedule. And it says, when referring to where people will be on the pay schedule, it says, existing employees shall be placed on the scale in the step equal to their years of service as of September 1st, 2011. Now, we're talking about payroll for 2015, 16, 17, and continuing on until the new contract is done. But your contract says 2011. So if a person started on October 1st of 2011, they could have 4 years of service by the time 2015 comes around. In 2015, it says your years of service at September 1st, 2011 is where you're going to be placed on the salary scale. Now, there's 7 people that signed this contract, and there should have been a hoop of people that read it. And I find it really ironic that nobody catches the fact that the contract just simply wasn't updated on such a meaningful and significant detail. There's a longevity clause in here. When it talks about how you pay people, it says that there will be a horizontal move, and that's based on September 1st every year. It says there will be a vertical move based on your anniversary date. That wasn't happening. There's horrible wording in there as to how the pay should happen. I mean, your contract is very poor at best. Simply, here it says each employee will contribute through payroll deduction an amount equal to $40 per pay period. You weren't doing $40 per pay period. You were doing for every month that had 3 weeks in it, so every year there will be 2 months that have 3 payrolls in it. It says here you're supposed to do $40 per pay period. In the months that had 3 weeks, you only did it twice, consistently, everybody. Personal days. This contract refers to personal days as that they earn 3 personal days a year. They're earning 3 personal days. Their day is supposed to be 8 hours, but they're taking it at 10 hours. So, we just find thing after thing after thing after thing. It has been hard to get to the bottom of the things to talk about that are just simply not following the contract. I mean, this document's readily accessible to anybody that wanted it. I'm astonished that the sheriff's deputies haven't cried foul before now, or that I'm just astonished that it's gotten to this point without anybody just seeing that. Like I said, the main issue that we really saw was the 410s caused a dramatic amount of problem. So it seems as though it was fairly lightly entered into to just go from 5 8-hour days to 4 10-hour days. And when you think about the impact that has, it is sizable. First of all, there are the number of hours. You will find that people working a 4-on, 4-off shift of that time will have not worked a few hundred hours, potentially, that they were compensated for. But in addition to that, they will have had, on average, about 350 hours that they should have been paid overtime, and they weren't. You as a county probably face a sizable risk of Department of Labor at either the federal or state level saying, you told them you'd pay them overtime, but you didn't pay them overtime. I mean, if that's 300 hours per deputy for 6 years, not to mention how much it could have been, well, I mean, if they just started the 410s. In addition to that, anybody that was hired after January 1st of 2011 is in SLEP Tier 2. That's their retirement. SLEP Tier 2 is a little different than before 2011. And what that says, if you work overtime, you don't get to count that overtime towards your pension. Well, if we have people that had 300 hours of overtime that has been included in their pension calculations that now all of a sudden shouldn't, that makes sizable errors and problems. We also noticed your dental insurance wasn't coming out pre-tax. 1 year it didn't come out pre-tax for federal, 1 payroll, and then 2 payrolls for state, and then the whole year for Social Security and Medicare. That means that every W-2 that the county issued for Sheriff's Department employees was incorrect for boxes 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 16. These are meaningful, sizable things that need to be addressed and corrected. I know the answer that everybody really wants to come down to is, but who owes who what? And I will say that is a horribly complicated question. And I can tell you the very high-level part of that would be the things you would be interested in terms of these errors. For one employee was the 4-on, 4-off duty schedule. By doing that, this particular employee was overpaid $6,542. But by not paying overtime, he was underpaid $5,561. In addition, there's the rate of pay error that we talked about, simply an oversight that I believe an oversight that nobody caught. That means you've overpaid them, according to the technicality of the contract, $2,484. There are numerous other things that are impacted: Social Security, Medicare, SLEP, IMRF. It's staggering how far down that spider's out. But I guess I wanted to bring to your attention, we've been working on this. It has been there have been significantly more problems than I would have expected within a county that has this size. So, I don't want to get into the specifics too much of that tonight. What I want to tell you is that we're going to have the report for you either at the November or December meeting. I don't know if you want to discuss it at a meeting or if you would prefer to call a special meeting for it, but I'm willing to do that and answer any questions that you would have at that time, or if you have any general questions tonight, I'm willing to answer those.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Next question.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how worried should we be?
I wouldn't want to be on a board that had this many issues unless you take proactive steps to fix them, yes. I don't want to sugarcoat this. I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be an attorney. But I at least understand risk as it relates to myself. And I wouldn't want to have this many errors where governing bodies like the Department of Labor or IMRF, people that you have over or underpaid, I wouldn't want them to come back and say, you did what, for how long, and never fix that. That could be staggering.
So what you're saying, it needs immediate attention.
I would make sure that my steps were always in an effort to start correcting things, yes. And there will be some things we come up with that you will say, that's a difference of opinion. And I say, fantastic. But there are some of these that there is no difference of opinion. This is as black and white as it gets.
Gary?
I'm Gary. I talked to John the other day. In hearing things around, I got quite concerned about things that, and I called John, and I reminded him who I was. I was the guy that led a charge against him getting the job. And he kind of indicated he wished the other lady would have gotten the job when I talked to him the other day. But I told him, I said, I'm just a board member. I'm chair of the finance committee. And he said, well, I can't discuss details. But we talked for almost 45 minutes. And when I asked him the question about our seats we're sitting in, he said, I would be shaking till where everybody in the building could hear me. And he also, correct me if I'm wrong, indicated that when this audit's done, there ought to be some others. Because he said, it's going down a rabbit hole and tunnels go in every direction, and he said, I never get to the end of the bottom.
And I do want to add to that. Every time we feel like we've kind of encapsulated what the potential problems are, we're just kind of wrapping it up and saying, oh man, this is a problem. You know, simply, we would look at some people that we're working with in your courthouse that had 27 hours in a paycheck, and you think, great, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, then we go look through some handwritten notes within the details and find they worked 3 9-hour days. Okay, well, 3 9-hour days is overtime according to your contract. You paid them for 27 hours at straight time. It should have been 24 hours of straight time and 3 hours of overtime. And the problem is your systems and records are woefully inadequate to assure and guarantee that, that these kinds of things are not problems for the county.
I want to finish one thing there with you. I went from not being the one on his side to, I'm very, very impressed with what he's dug into. And I know he talked about how difficult it's been to get some materials. Some he's waited almost a year. And they said didn't exist. And all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, they popped up. That's a concern. And I think all that needs to be looked into. It needs to be straightened out. Do I make mistakes? Yes, I do. But I try to come back and make corrections when I do. But he scared the daylights out of me, and I just mostly listened. And it was just the indications that, folks, you got to get straightened up, or somebody is going to sink your ship. And it's serious, in my mind.
Yes, sir.
What did we foul up, or what do we need to be looking at here a month ago, 2 months ago, whenever we went from 4 10-hour days, from we went to 3 12s, and juggled that around? I mean, I don't know whether we've got, well, we haven't created more problems.
I'm not the attorney for either side of that, and so I don't want to get involved in that. But I can say, do you know how easily this would have been to fix if somebody at some point would have done a memorandum of understanding to say, we do not intend 8 hours in a day to constitute overtime. Department of Labor says you can't narrow that down, or I guess make it any wider than 40 hours in a week. But you can choose to make it 8 hours in a day. Well, you made it 8 hours in a day, and so by now changing people's hours, by not changing that 8 hours in a day, you've made everything over 8 hours overtime. I mean, it's your own doing. And so simply saying, we hereby agree that we're going to strike this clause about 8 hours a day by saying we're going to work 4 10s, we're going to take this out, you would have fixed a mountain of problems. Huge mountain of problems.
You're saying we should have passed
A memorandum of understanding.
agreement with the county board should have passed this?
Well, the FOP and the county should have had an agreement that would have stated that by changing our agreement about the days, the work days, we understand there are ancillary issues that go along with that, and one of those is 8 hours in a day is no longer considered overtime. If you had done that, a huge portion of this number would have evaporated, but it didn't happen.
Okay, so did we do that?
We did that when we went to the 12-hour shifts.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
For the 12. Ryan, I think one thing on his, several months ago, we passed a county board policy on payroll, and we are not enforcing it. And it's been asked to be enforced, and we just don't enforce it. If it's a bad setup writing, we need to write one that's going to cover us. But we've got to start following some laws and start straightening out some of our messes, or you're not going to find anybody who wants to serve our board.
I'm kind of following up with that. Like, the point has been, or the problem has been brought to our attention. We know there's a problem. What are we doing? I mean, maybe it's already in the works. I don't know. Because if we don't fix it, we're complicit in it. We're part of the problem. So what are we developing to fix it? We've kicked the can down the road for so long that I think we've just gotten used to not resolving an issue. So how do we work to resolve this? Because I don't want to be complicit in somebody being overpaid or underpaid either way. That's not fair, and that's not how you treat employees. So what do we do?
We see what all the issues are, and then we address them when we find out what we need to address.
If I can add, there is a lot of low-hanging fruit that you will be able to pick to make this better. I won't say it will be perfect, but it won't take a lot to start making it better than it was. I've been doing accounting work for almost 3 decades. Quite honestly, it startled me at the accumulation of errors. It's just because of the systems are decentralized. I wouldn't pin this on anybody particularly. There's no point in that. But what I just mean is your systems are not set up particularly for 2021. You know, this is stuff that probably existed 50 years ago that you've just not caught up with what is common practice.
Yes, Mark.
I also talked with John, phone call. Something that he mentioned was the record of timekeeping. There is really no true, accurate check-in, check-out.
Or as it relates to, we're covering a broad enough period that it's hard to answer that specifically, but I would say the system of record keeping for your hours is inadequate, yes. There are too many opportunities to say that a person just worked 8 hours, and that probably is, an 8 to noon, 1 to 4, that probably is not, when you would see that for 18 payrolls in a row, you would start to say, I find that ironically unlikely that a person would consistently be there every day at 8 and leave every day at noon and come back every day at 1. It's a possibility. But there are a lot of additional reasons why, from a loss prevention standpoint, you should be concerned about people keeping accurate records of their time, rather than just blanketly saying, yes, I was here for 8 hours. Workman's comp, different things that are risks, it would be prudent to have a better system of reporting like this.
John?
Yes, sir.
Our treasurer, you work with her close. How would you rate her abilities in the job she's trying to do?
I feel as though she brought a lot of issues to to the forefront of discussion. I don't have firsthand knowledge of how they are, but I've had very good relationship. I mean, Jessica's got me everything I've needed, and Erica's got me everything I've needed, and I've worked closely with Tina at the Sheriff's Department. I mean, I don't see problems there other than your systems and have errors and issues that just need to be coordinated and resolved.
Do these offices not have time clocks? I mean, isn't that a simple fix?
It's government, government.
Yeah, your contract has not caused that to be the case, and so that would have to be a negotiated item for your labor contract. But it would be steps that I would take towards saying, how are we going to do that? Whether it's a time clock or whether it's something else, you can accomplish that. But that should be a negotiated item, I'm sure. Once again, I don't pretend to be counsel for either side of that. I'm just saying, from an accounting side, from a business side, that would be helpful. Yes.
Nicole, I know that did you do the FOP contract, or was it the person in your office who negotiated it?
Jay Scott did that. I did the ASME contract.
Okay, but from what he has to say, do you think that some of these problems are going to be addressed with the new contract that we're going to vote on?
I was going to suggest when we arrived at that item, based on what Mr. Vandenberg said, that we table that. And I'd like to discuss in detail Mr. Vandenberg, because this contract will be in effect for 3 years, so let's get it right.
Yes. I was going to suggest this.
Yeah. And we only got it finalized this morning in written form, so a lot of board members probably haven't had an opportunity to thoroughly review it.
John?
Will you have a number, John, in the future of what our potential liability will be based on what's been paid, overpaid?
No, I mean, I think it's hard to extrapolate that right now based on the limited information. The sheriff's deputy that I chose as an example here, your liability is not going to be that great. This was a person that was a slut tier 2, so that's a problem. This was a person that's a 4 10-hour days, so that's a problem. But that illustrates at least the outer bands of what you could say, my goodness, if this, I mean, to be truthful, if I can speak frankly, I know you guys negotiated for 10 months whether you even wanted to have this done. If you hadn't done this, how much would that number balloon to over time if you hadn't done it? So I guess what I would say is, while the numbers are meaningful, there are things that just need to be fixed so that they go forward into the future correct rather than continuing errors.
It's not your responsibility to point out what the liability is, really.
Well, my report my report will identify an amount that we believe a quantification of the error that we believe has existed. But man, I tell you, that's a big spreadsheet.
John, you were saying on the pay scales, sometimes they didn't go down vertical like they were supposed to.
They went vertical at the September 1st date. So September 1st was always a meaningful date for that. But the contract says on your anniversary date you go down, on the September 1st you go over. And really it was, everything was at the September 1st date. But part of that is because your systems were very poorly designed to cause a person's rate of pay to be predetermined on a spreadsheet that just gets sent in for payroll every time. Well, when it's predetermined, it's pretty easy to just say, turn it in.
When I worked there, they didn't have it. We went down and slid over. Just whatever percentage went up, that's what went on your pay, and that was it.
Well, we look forward to seeing what wonderful news you bring us in either November or December, John. That could be a really early Christmas present, or it could be a really coal in the stockings present. I'm not sure which. Bobby, would you like to say something?
I just have one comment. You mentioned decentralization of records. That's the same thing that our annual auditor said, was we don't have a centralization of records. So there's monies that flow through this department and that department, and there's no accountability to one particular spot, and it's hard to gain access to all the important numbers. And part of the issue is there's never been one person that has the ability to hone in on the contracts and make sure everything's accountable. But
as a fraud examiner, I will say, you guys are ripe for fraud. Undeniably. By having the systems you have, you create the opportunity for every department to do whatever they want. And without any, what's that saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. I'm not saying that has happened, but what I'm saying is you're allowing that situation to be very prevalent. And whether it happens now or in the future, if you don't change it, I assure you it will happen. Unless you start to create some of these things where instead of having every department having their own accountability, well, now you have anybody doing whatever they want. If they say, oh, you want to be off for 3 days, just be off, we'll cover for you. Nobody's going to know. I mean, you make it very, very, very easy for somebody to defraud the county. That's what I would say. A decentralized system makes that very easy for a rotten personality to take advantage of a situation.
All right, thanks for the update, John.
The $4 million you're talking about was just estimated. Was that over a year?
That is, so if we looked at the 252 W-2s over the 6-year period of time,
6 years. Okay.
if you had that much error in one person over 252 people, it would be 4.4 million.
Okay.
Now, it's not going to be that much. I mean, I don't want to say that is sensationalized, but it is inherently overweighted because of the fact it was a deputy that was a SLEP Tier 2. That is going to be larger than somebody who is not a deputy in a SLEP Tier 2.
So 6-year period, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, 6-year period, yeah. And like I said, that's the gross number. The net of that really is going to be obviously significantly larger.
Thank you, John, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, number 9 on the agenda, the discussion and vote on termination of Weston Company contract. I believe Nicole has an update on that.
Yes, you actually don't even have to vote on this because the letter of engagement from Weston Company gave them the option of withdrawing from this engagement, and they have provided written notice to us that they are withdrawing from the engagement, so there's no need to vote on that one.
Okay. So we need to start the process of finding another auditor in the future, quickly future, correct?
Yes.
They
Yes,
did
Bob.
say they would help us draft the letters to send out to solicit the bidding, if you will.
Okay. Thank you for that, Bobby.
And to that point, I'd like to make a comment about, bear in mind, what was the bill on, what was their final bill? Do you recall, Jessica?
I think it was $54,600
Right.
from
So-
their quoted $42,000.
So, from my understanding of the discussions with them, they've probably eaten the better part of $160,000 in the last 2 years. That's probably lowballing it. The decentralization of information is the key problem. And for us to find another auditor might be a stretch of the imagination. We might get one, but people know now. These audit reports have been presented. It's been apparent that the same issues have come up. Just bear in mind that this is going to be a mountain to get an auditor to come back in. So just keep that in the back of your head. But the decentralization of information is the key problem. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Alan, your county engineer highway report.
Good evening. Okay, this evening I have a petition agreement and some updates. I have a petition from the Big Spring Highway Commissioner to replace a box culvert located at 400 North, 3,125 East, approximately 3 miles northwest of the town of Siegel. Estimated cost to replace this box culvert is $18,000 to be split equally between the county and the township. I'm asking approval to help Big Spring Township with this box replacement.
Motion made by Bobby to approve the resolution. Do we have a second? John? Any discussion?
Is it a box culvert that's there currently?
I'm sorry.
Is it a box culvert that's there currently?
Yes, it's cracked up and broke up and
That's all I was curious about.
can't handle the water.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed.
Okay, we went on the Country Club Federal Aid Access Program Upgrade Project Phase 1, which is from the city limits of Shelbyville north to Possum Creek access area. It is a project that is fully funded with grant funds, several grants, estimated at $2 million. To do the construction engineering oversight, we did a selection process, and the top scoring firm was Hampton, Manzini, and Renwick. I believe I mentioned that before in previous meetings. We have an agreement that to provide those services. The last month we passed a contract with Hammond and Reed to provide services next year. Intend to use them and this company to provide construction oversight. Estimated cost is $132,940 to do that work. Without Hammond and Reed, that estimate was $174,800. So I believe that was well decided upon. I'm now asking the county to enter an agreement with Hampton, Manzini, and Renwick for these services, planning on starting the project next year.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Jeff? Gary seconds. Any discussion?
They take it.
Yeah, we got a second already, Kenny. Any discussion? I'll speak up a little more, sorry.
You say that's a $2 million project?
Okay, thank you.
Does the engineering firm or fees and stuff come out of the grants or?
Yes, it's 100% funded out of the grants.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, I have some updates. There's quite a few, but I'll try and be quick. First one is Flat Branch Bridge that I've reported on for quite a few months. It is open and final inspection by IDOT was performed on September 16th. There were no findings on the construction. The project is considered complete, except we always go through a final audit with IDOT, so then that usually takes months and months. So the project is complete pending the final audit. The bridge in Rose Township that has been under construction and I have reported on for several months was delayed this month by 2 weeks due to a delay in the delivery of the beams that go on the bridge, and also the inability of the contractor to obtain a crane to lift the beams. It is now back under construction. I would anticipate it to be completed probably by the county board meeting next month. The bridge on the Cold Spring Oconee Township line that we passed a petition to repair, and we had a contract bid, and the contractor was awarded by the county board a month or two ago. That contract has now been signed by both the county and the contractor and has been sent to IDOT for approval. The reason IDOT approves it is because there's motor fuel tax funds involved. So after that gets back to us, we'll have a pre-job meeting and hopefully that project will get underway. I'm currently working on several transition items. One is I'm meeting with the 24 highway commissioners individually, one at a time, to go over their yearly motor fuel tax budget for next year. I anticipate I've probably gotten over half of them completed, and we'll be submitting them to IDOT by the end of this month. I'm working also on the county motor fuel tax a little ahead of schedule this year in order to get things in line. I'm also working on the county motor fuel tax budget, and it should also be completed by the end of this month and submitted to IDOT for approval. That one will require a vote by the county board for a resolution, and that should occur next month in November. Every year, the county highway department has to submit a multi-year plan for projects. This time it's a 5-year plan beginning in FY23 to FY27. That has to be submitted to IDOT so that they program Shelby County's work that has funding with federal, state, and local money. I am planning on having that completed by the end of the month, and we'll be submitting it to IDOT. Upcoming bids. We are also working on our annual bids for rock and culverts, tentatively scheduled for December 3rd. Would like to meet that date because it's real difficult to get rock for the roads. The highway commissioners and the county had a lot of difficulty in getting their rock this year. So we're generating those bid packages. The bid package have to occur after the budgets get approved that I just talked about, so that we know how much rock to put in bid and how many culverts to order. That is hopefully on December 3rd. Oil, cold mix, and rock hauling is scheduled to be bid on February 5th. The Westerville Bridge on the county highway just south of Westerville is funded with a federal grant, 80% federal, with a federal grant and a state match to do the other 20%. It is scheduled for a state bid letting on January 21st. We are still trying to get right away, so that is also a tentative date. But that is currently, the state has marked that down as that date. Similarly, the Country Club, I call it the Country Club Road Federal Land Access Program that I talked about earlier, that one is also approved for a state letting on January 21st. We are also trying to get right away on that. There were 12 parcels to acquire, and we've gotten, I think, 7 so far. There are certain due dates we have to meet in order to meet the bid opening date of January 21st. If not, then it will move to the state bid opening on March 11th. Bridge in Shelbyville Township is in the program for IDOT to be bid on June 17th of next year. I see no issue with that except for the staffing of these projects. But we're working towards that. There's a drainage structure in Prairie Township, 600 North, near Herborn. We are planning on bidding that. It is under environmental review, and we're planning on bidding that in late summer. Probably will be constructed late summer, fall of next year. And there's also a bridge, and that one is funded entirely by Rebuild Illinois funds, Prairie Township's Rebuild Illinois funds. We are also planning on a bridge late summer on the Moweaqua County Highway near the village of Moweaqua. It is also 100% funded with Rebuild Illinois funds and is in current design, and I would anticipate it to be bid late summer of next year with construction in late summer or fall. Every year we have an audit from IDOT on our books for motor fuel tax and township bridge program funds that we receive. That occurred a couple months ago, and we received the final audit, and that audit was a very good audit. They found very few items that we have to address. The audit needs to be filed, so I'll be giving you a copy of it. So it's filed in the court, in the courthouse. Some statements in the certification by IDOT on our motor fuel tax audit where entries for receipts and books and records are true and correct. Disbursements are supported by canceled warrants. And they examined and checked records of the county clerk and treasurer, and they are in accordance with their records. So it's a very good report, and it will be filed with the courthouse. That type of audit occurs every year. The only other thing I have is talked with the Road and Bridge Committee a lot about the transition, and the meeting minutes that we took are very significant. They are several pages long, and they will be distributed to you. Attached to those meeting minutes are the project lists that I always attach. I keep expanding it to get more information, but there's a lot of information in there, and you're welcome to look at it and call me about it and ask questions about it, and hopefully that'll be helpful. And that's my report, unless there's questions.
Any questions for Alan over his report?
I'd like to say something, that this is his last meeting with seeing here, and he's been good to work with all the years that I've worked with him since 1980, the mid-'80s or late '80s.
Certainly, thank you very much. It's certainly been an honor working with you.
John had one.
I just want to say one thing too. I know how hard engineers' jobs are. I've known a lot of state engineers and private engineers over the years. And what you do getting your grants and getting all those jobs done are a very remarkable job. And it's tough for anybody to take that kind of person's place. On the flip side of the fence, I've got to ask you, because I see you are going to retire at the end of this month. I know this is hard to ask and hard for you to say, but do you still feel like Shelby Engineering was a mistake?
Out of order. Out of order. Out of order. Any other thing?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
How is the prospect list? I mean, do we have a list? Has it been?
We are hoping to start interviews in a week or two.
Pretty slim.
So that's all. We haven't had a lot of responses, but we've had some.
Yeah, I thought I saw in the minutes where there had been submissions made to different agencies.
Yes, we put it in as many places we could come up with that.
Yep.
Just like everything else in the world right now, it's hard to find people that want to move and do a job.
Yep.
So I was going to have that in the updates, but.
Oh, yeah.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to apologize for John's comment.
All right, that was out of order too. Let's keep this on track here, guys. Let's go.
I do have one comment. I would also like to thank you very much for all the years that I've dealt with you as a business owner, as a resident, as a board member. And I think you've done a fabulous job for this county, and everything you've done went above and beyond, and I'm going to miss you a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
It's been an honor.
Okay, Bill, we've got a discussion and vote on the amended wind farm ordinance.
I think everybody got a copy of it from Jessica. I came in on the late end of this. State's attorney, zoning committee, my predecessor had started working on it before I got hired. I think it's a good contract that not only, or a good ordinance that not only protects our citizens of the county from big corporations taking advantage of them, it also allows for corporations to come in under our guidance to create a wind farm if they want. Well, that's not all I got to say. I mean, it's 22 pages long. I'm not going to say go through it line by line, but if anybody has any questions, I could probably answer it, but like I said, state's attorney and zoning committee, they took the lead on this. I'm just support to them right now, so.
I take a motion to approve the wind ordinance. Motion made by Denny. Is there a second? Gary seconds it. Now I'll open up discussion. Anybody have any questions about it? Any thoughts? Yes, Mark.
Seeing that I have quite a few constituents that have called me in the last 6 months, whether it be pro or con, mostly con, and one large item that I see in it that there's a restriction for near a village, whether it be incorporated, non-incorporated, or any other group of housing, residential, commercial, whatever, there's a 1.5 mile restriction. Well, I'm sorry, those are residences, and as far as I'm concerned in the country, I just assumed there was a 1.5 miles for me as well, so we have 2 sets of rules. I think the moratorium ought to be left in place, because my constituents don't want any of it, the majority
We
of
can't
my
stop
people.
it. We cannot completely stop this. If your neighbor wants it to make money off of it, we've already been told that, we have to have some regulations in place.
Just to FYI, everybody, eventually I have a feeling, and I talked to our local legislator just the other day in my office, that Springfield's gonna take this all out of our hands
We
anyway.
want some restrictions. that
I
we
agree.
feel tough.
You know,
I agree, but I just shouldn't have the same restrictions of being rural or as a residence. If it's a 1.5 miles for other people in a populated area, it should be a 1.5 miles from my house. There's about 3 different sets of 3 or 4 sets of rules listed in there, and they should all be, it should be the same for all
Well,
residences.
the state comes in and eventually takes this over and says.
True,
it's
but-
over mine.
I'm sorry, sir, I interrupted you. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we can't make it stricter to start with.
I don't want to argue, I'm not arguing, I'm just trying to state we've been warned what, and I have been in discussion with a couple of us on the board up at Tuscola in Douglas County, and said ours is a lot stricter than theirs now, and they're trying to change theirs, where they've got 2 townships, Newman Township and Douglas Township, they've moved in and built them, and they got almost 29-mile roads damaged to the tune of over $12 million. That so far, they've been refusing. They finally expect to take them to court, and they finally agreed to pay the $12.5 million to start working on the road. They haven't got it fixed yet, they're going to tore completely up. So,
Can I say one more thing before you vote? Is a lot of this mirrors Christian County, their ordinance, and they went through a lot of pros and cons and meetings and stuff, and there's no wind farms in Christian County as of today. So, and this mirrors a lot of that. So, the wind farms are staying out of their county. It may be because of the ordinance. So just that's just something you guys should keep in mind.
I appreciate what Christian County has done. I'd just like to see the limitations be just as strong
I mean, this,
to
keep
E
any
it up,
residence.
I mean, it can be changed, but it just takes a lot of process to do that again. That's all I got. Anybody got questions for me?
I will tell you this, Mark, we took several different plans. One of them was Christian County, we looked at Douglas County. We had an old plan in place that we dissected and stuff, and one of the most stringent ones we found was Christian County, and we went way above them. I had somebody on the planning commission say that I'll never go to another planning commission meeting with you. It's the longest one we've ever had. They know that I don't like words like should, shall, or reasonable. You know, we talked and talked and talked, and when you're using terms like that, I always what I did, I compared it to a cop stopping you on the road. What'd you stop me for? Well, you weren't going at a reasonable speed. That sign out there says 55, you know. So we took all of that out of there. I think the state's attorney got a little bit ticked at me, but we went through every sentence and we tried to tighten it up as much as we possibly could.
I appreciate that, and my brother-in-law happened to be on that group that worked with Christian County. So I've been going through that part of it. It's just, I just like to see the same rules all the way across.
one of the things we did find out from some of the other counties that got them, if Bob's Farms got a windmill on his and he got an extra $300,000, he loves it. I'm over here, I can't have one, I hate it, you know, and vice versa. So it's
I think that's already happening in some places.
Yeah.
Don't forget money already.
Gary, you had something?
Yeah, I was going to ask Mark. Mark, you feel like the moratorium is better than more protection?
To my
How long
knowledge-
would we ride that?
To my knowledge, the moratorium is just a positive no. I think, yes, the state is going to mandate.
Yeah.
No matter what we have, we'll have to adjust it.
Gary?
I guess one thing I see from working on it's the moratorium against the policy we currently have on the books. The current policy we have was not even close. I don't think anybody would have been happy with it, whether you were going to get a tower or not get a tower. And Jared's goal at the time was to get a policy that at least both sides would hopefully be happy with, and something that we could open it up for those who do want to have a wind farm, and eventually somebody's going to they're going to test it on us and try to force it. And if we've got this policy on hand, I feel a lot better than if they look at the policy that we did have. So I think it's a very positive step having this policy. And the second thing, I think from what I've read, the office that used to be in Pana selling wind farms has now really relocated to Sullivan to sell wind farms. So that's telling you what area they've left and what area they're now going to, which is your neighbors.
Yeah, in fact, I live a mile from Moultrie County and 2.5 miles from Macon County. So yes, I can be very close to them already. I don't know what's best.
Bobby?
Nicole, is there, so if we have a policy in place, or if we have a moratorium in place, prospectively, if the state steps in with a blanket policy, all of that goes away?
Right.
There is no standing of anything after that?
That the state statute will override us. It's not in effect yet, but everyone anticipates that they're going to pass it. This proposed ordinance is much more restrictive than the one that we have in effect now, in terms of restrictive against the windmill farms. We used Christian counties as a model, and ours is more restrictive than theirs.
Yes, Mark?
I have not read through all of the papers, I just highlighted. Is there anything as far as solar in it? Because there seems to be...
It's two separate, that's two separate issues.
As I can see, to the north, it's more wind farms, to the south, it's more solar.
That's
Shelby County.
two separate ordinances that we have to have.
I know Jeff's been by the new solar one down in Fayette County, and it's something that Jeff.
Yes.
I drove that down there. You wouldn't, it's worth a drive. I think it's 900 and some acres.
Let's stay on point of the wind
Can I
farm.
say something?
Sorry about
Yeah.
You're fine.
Please, thank you. We do have a separate ordinance for solar farms, but I think just passing this ordinance and getting it into our books is beneficial. I don't think you have to take away the moratorium, because right now we have a wind farm ordinance already on the books and a moratorium. So I don't know if one necessarily has to go away if the other one gets passed, but that's up to you guys to decide.
I think that's sequential, isn't it? So there was a wind ordinance, then there was a
We
moratorium.
have a wind ordinance.
The last action taken is what stands, so the next action taken is to pass another wind ordinance. That's the action that stands.
I don't know.
Any other discussion? Derek, you got something?
Yeah, but between the two, between the new ordinance or the current moratorium, if somebody wants to put a wind farm in somewhere where somebody else doesn't want it, which one would have the better likelihood of being able to be
suspended?
I can't answer that. I mean, you're talking lawyers, and lawyers, they're trained to, sorry, Nicole, they're trained to get past what they want their person they're working for, so you never know how that will go.
And they threw out money, so.
But, all right, any other discussion? Yeah.
Shouldn't we add on the agenda, maybe we should be voting to remove the moratorium before we do this? Because if the moratorium is not taken off, that ordinance really don't mean anything.
If you take out the moratorium with the old ordinance, though, that is much more liberal than this one. The one that's being proposed now is much more restrictive against wind farms. So if you lifted the moratorium right now, we would have our old ordinance in effect, and that's pretty open to wind farms.
So what are you saying? Go ahead and pass this ordinance and keep the moratorium?
Eventually, that moratorium is going to have to be lifted. I was just asking Brian, I don't recall why it was passed, or was that because of COVID? Was that the reason that the moratorium was passed?
I want to put it on there.
Okay. I mean, eventually, a company is going to go to court about that. Moratoriums, it will be stay in effect forever.
That was a temporary moratorium, if I remember.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, wasn't it, Jeff?
I don't remember nothing about temporary, I just put moratorium.
Okay. Anyway.
Any other discussion?
So, let me get this straight.
They will both be in effect at the same time.
Okay.
Until we lift
Pass
the
this
moratorium.
ordinance and moratorium is still on.
It's still on as far as I know, because there's nothing about lifting the moratorium. The next step would be to then to lift the moratorium in the next board meeting if that is brought up.
Gotcha.
All this is doing is protecting us with a stronger ordinance than what we had. So if we're forced at some point to have to, like Nicole said, remove that moratorium, we have this in place as our protection. Let me rephrase that, not as our protection, but as our new ordinance. And that way, if they choose to have a wind farm come into our county, they have to abide by that level instead of the level we would currently be at. Does that make sense?
The old one goes away once we adopt it.
Right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of this ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Thank you for everything you did on doing the moratorium there, Bill. Or not the moratorium, the ordinance. I appreciate that. You're welcome. Next will be Nicole on the discussion of the amended merit commission rules, regulations, procedures.
If the decision is to pass the FOP, or table the FOP contract, I think the merit commission rules should also be tabled because we wanted to make sure that the changes in the FOP contract match some of the changes in the merit commission. For instance, one thing that is proposed in the FOP contract is that deputies be allowed to live outside the county as long as it's an adjacent county. And it also permits for lateral hiring from other departments. And some of the proposed changes in the merit commission bylaws are based on that. So if the FOP contract didn't pass, parts of this one ain't either, so I think we should keep them together.
So you want to move to 13, jump to 13, do the FOP contract?
That would probably make
And
sense.
then come back to number 12 with the FOP
Yes.
contract? Okay. So we're going to skip it and we're going to go to discussion of vote of ratification of the FOP contract. I think I received that in the email this morning around 9:30-ish, somewhere in that area. I did have some time to look through it.
I'm just going to make a motion table.
Thank you very much, Bobby. That's where I was going with that. We got a motion to table by Bobby.
I will second well, for
Gary will-
discussion, I'm still on the FOP committee, and after Mr. Brandenburg's talking there, I think we need our legal counsel to look it over, look for the mistakes very closely. We're not lawyers on that committee,
Yes.
and there's an awful lot of legal jargon there that needs to be verified. And we changed a lot of things because of trying to find people that were foolish enough to want to be on police work anymore. We gave some rights to the sheriff to reach out and try to be a little more attractive to get people to come in the county and work. That's the reason outside the county and all those things. We're on a short list, and we've got to have something to be attractive, but we need to make sure it is all in correct.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Any other discussion on the table? Mr. Sean?
I was going to say, I support the fact that I did, and I want to make sure that it's correct.
Okay, I appreciate that. Gary?
Just a real quick one. I guess I would have no problem if Jay presents it to us next month, since he worked on it start to finish.
You'll have to be here late at night.
Is it not allowed? Does he have to get permission?
You'll be allowed.
Okay.
All those in favor of tabling? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, the agenda item was tabled. Move on to the next one. Is there any motion to possibly table, going back to number 12, the Merit Commission? Anybody like to make a motion to table that in conjunction?
I'd like a motion to table that also till November.
Anybody seconds? Any discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
I just think it should be noted that we received the contract this morning, so
Yes.
time would be,
I tried to look through it, and I got through some of it, and I wasn't looking as deep as what we probably should have been.
It was just ratified a few days ago, and we just read it this morning, so it's understandable to table it.
All right, moving on to number 14, discussion and vote on proposed getting a legislative change regarding the leasing of county-owned property. Any?
Okay, I don't know about the rest of the board members, but the number one issue that people in my district, or even people out of the district, hit me up about is about that farm. About it's not farming. So back in August, we all got an email, except for Kenny, from the IACBM, that's the Illinois Association of County Board Members. And I'll read it to you real quick. The Illinois Association of County Board Members is accepting proposals for the 2022 policy platform. Proposals will be reviewed by the IACBM Legislative Committee for consideration and adoption prior to the start of the second year of the 102nd General Assembly. And this is a group that we pay our dues to, and I think we need to get them working for us. At that time, after I got this, I contacted our chief legal advisor, Nicole, and I also contacted Brian, and I said what my idea was to get on board the 40 other counties, or 39, whatever it is, that are farming their land, and we're not, and plus include in this the farmland petition that Jake and Carol Cole started, and I want to thank them for doing that. And get them working for us to take that back to the General Assembly, see if we can get it straightened out. To me, that seems the most fair and direct way to handle it. And I would make a motion to that effect. And I would also call for a roll call vote on it.
I'll second. Motion made by Denny, seconded by Jeff. Any discussion?
yeah, I have a question. Who wrote this? Was this was this drafted individually out in the public and then reviewed and brought in, or was this drafted by legislators and sent out to be?
Who wrote what? What are you talking about?
Well, this is the proposed statute leasing the county ground, right?
I drafted it.
Okay. So the question, it's pretty point blank. Just be able to lease or rent to either a public or private entity, but I think in the terms of writing legislation in Springfield, there should be very, 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 very pointed ends to the means. So if a county is given the ability to rent or lease their land, one, that's an acceptance that it's not legal to rent or lease your land. But the other part is, if the county has a farm, it must be defined as the farm previously known as the poor farm, or something near there. It can't be a piece of property that was attained in the meantime arbitrarily, and it's just excess property. The other thing is, I think that the monies that are generated, if this would go through in the state legislature, is that the monies defined that are made, the rentals or the lease, the payments to the county, I think those monies should be defined and earmarked for, you have a capital investment, you have a piece of capital laying out there as land. The recipient of those funds should be another capital investment, being this building or the sheriff's department or other buildings, specifically capital asset, capital gain. To my notion, it's just too loosely written. It leaves a lot of loose ends, and if there was something proposed with a lot more definition, I think it would be a lot better. That'd be a step in the right direction. But right now, the laws and the Constitution is written in means of protection of the people and restriction of the government. And that needs to make a change on this one little piece of the puzzle should be very severely looked at, heavily looked at. So,
Jenny?
Well, I'm not going to debate that with you, Bobby. What my motion is to contact the IACVM to have them work for us. That's what my motion is.
Gary?
Last month, Mark, some of us worked on the deal with the County Board of Farm that used custom farming. Not as a permanent answer, but to get that farm back in production, put a wheat crop on this fall, put double crop beans. I know they're not the best, but they're low input crops. And it can always be changed over when we find a legal answer. The Attorney General said we'll answer the question in 2 to 4 years. That should be a pretty simple question to answer if it is legal, and as these ladies pointed out, it's strange they can't give us an answer if it's that clear. I'm not a lawyer. I've done more reading in law papers than I ever wanted to, but I cannot find anything. You're dealing with a constitutional situation, and it's not simple enough that you can just wave a magic wand and that's going to go away. A lot of these counties that are farming ground, if you look into several of them, it's not the county board farming. It's the airport authority that has the right to rent out ground because the law gives them that right. We don't have that right that I can find. And the same way with park districts, there's different organizations within government that do have legal rights, and they call them the county farms. Several on that list are not county boards farming, and when we do that, it's different than when they do it. We looked at trying to sign it over to the airport, but because it's away from the airport and everything, we don't have that option. I've been accused of wanting to sell a farm. I own farm ground. I don't want to sell a farm, but I want us to be legal. We listened to a man tonight that kind of scolded us on, you're ignoring the law. I would like to get through a period of time, and when we can get it done legally, we switch it over to, last week we didn't even bring, or last month we didn't bring the issue to the floor because several people that said they would back us on it right ahead of the meeting said, no, won't do it. And so we didn't even present it. But there's the group that is blocked, we're not doing it to sell the farm. If there is no legal way to do it, then that would be the option we're stuck with. But I truly think there's some way to work it. And I think probably going to have to change some laws. I know in Springfield, they've tried, I think for about 2 years to pass it. And the thing that keeps them from getting anything done, they cannot find any way to make it for the public good when somebody's profiting personally from the use of that land. And if I'm wrong on that, let me know. But I know a lot of us spend a lot of time reading. And that's not one of my favorite hobbies. And reading legal work is like I said, we want our lawyers to look over the contract because it's serious. But I was amazed that they don't want to get farming this year. We get the weeds under control and be good all the way around for it. But we got rejected on that, and I'm very sorry. Mark even apologized to the public that was here last month in the fact that he'd let them down by not being able to get the votes to get it through. Doing something with it is a whole lot better than doing nothing with it. That's my spiel, I'm sorry.
You're fine. I personally do not think this is going to cause us not to be able to farm it. Either way, the farm committee comes up with an idea for this year. I think this is just trying to get things maybe in motion on the state level to say, maybe we need to look into this. This is, one county saying, let's look into this, see if we can change this and get it to where we can. The counties can do it a certain way. And this is just to go to the ACBM and have them present it to the legislative and look through it.
But it shows you how messed up our state is on laws.
Well, there's a lot of things our state's messed up on.
And it needs fixed, and not just here, but yeah.
So, yeah, John?
Can we possibly, based on what he's saying, and I think maybe on some of the opinions have changed slightly since last meeting, we asked the farm committee to bring up that idea again about Mark's custom cropping?
It's not on the agenda, so it cannot be brought up at this time.
Can you ask the committee to look into it?
We have some stuff coming up that we will discuss, and then I'm sure there's going to be a farm committee meeting in the future, and it will be discussed, John. So, Bob?
I don't think Denny's motion is, it's just to give them the idea to help us out.
Yeah.
He's not writing no law there. There's no law written in his motion. It's a motion to go to the other counties to help us out and maybe get a law passed. Maybe not. How do we know if we don't try?
Yes.
We pay dues to that outfit.
Any other discussion? Mark?
Okay, so this vote is not on what Bobby showed as far as the...
This is for this, to send it to the IACBM, and then they send it to their legislative stuff.
We're not approving necessarily what Nicole had written up that's open-ended, or is not really defined, as Bobby said.
It's a proposal. They can do with it what they want. They can amend it. It's a proposal.
Okay.
And it clears up what we've all been arguing about for the last year or so.
Thank you.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Eric?
So is this a question that you're proposing for this group to petition the state government to potentially change the Constitution or a statute? I've seen boxes that are marked, but none of them are marked. And is there, what sort of consequences would there be for doing that possibly?
The proposal is for a statute. That's the attachment to it, and I wrote proposed statute on it. It's up to the legislature if they want to pass it. This is simply an idea we would be asking them to consider if that's the majority vote of the county board.
Any other discussion? This was requested a roll call vote. We'll take the vote now.
Kenny Barr.
Yes.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Paul Candidate.
Yes.
Brian Kaufman.
Yes.
Dennis Turnovich.
Yes.
Jesse Durbin.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Gary Gergany.
Yes.
Rod Height.
Yes.
Larry Lenz.
Yeah.
Bobby Orman.
Yeah.
Gary Patterson.
Yes.
Garrett Piercy.
No.
John Poe.
Yes.
Robert Simpson.
Yes.
Jeff Slifer.
Yes.
David Switz.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Lynn Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 19 yes, 1 no. Derek Piercy.
All right. Moving on, I'm going to combine 15 and 16 here. I got a conversation with Derek this evening. There's been some things come to light in the last few days. These two agenda items are to reduce our board size. We found out that we legally can't do that at this time because we are a multi-member districts, and to go to a single-member district takes a referendum in the county to allow us to do that. Seeing these are both going to a single member, we cannot do anything on that. My only question is there a way to possibly amend? We're on a time crunch here. I mean, we are on a serious time crunch to get this done. We've got to have, help me out, Jessica, the map.
You have to have everything by the third Wednesday in November.
So, if we go to start trying to change stuff, it's going to be very hard now. I mean, if we have to wait for another meeting month, hash this out. I'm asking, help me out a little bit if you would, please, sir. Is there a way that we can amend maybe number 15, and instead of having it as 11 one-member districts, amend that to where we can stay 11 two-member districts and continue the size we have now, since we are on such a time crunch to get this done?
I'd like to speak to that.
Okay, Bobby, can you speak to
So
that?
in the past, what's on the agenda, that's what you're voting on. We've done that. What's on the agenda is what we're voting on.
Okay, I knew we had that in a meeting 2 months ago. I was just seeing if there was a possible way we could do that, because we need to get this ball rolling, and unfortunately it is. We can't act on voting on a 22 staying the same size as we are tonight because it was not on the agenda. I was trying to figure out a way to get that done tonight, but I was afraid we wouldn't be able to. Don?
Can we Derek make his motion for 11, and then somebody amend that, or amend the motion to change it to 22, and then pass it?
Well, that's what we were just discussing. If that was if either one of these were more of an open-ended agenda item, where it was just to talk about size and stuff of the board, I think we could do that. But since it is they're cut and dried 11-1, 17-1, we can't amend those. If it would have been discussion and vote on reapportion of Shelby County to maintain and that's it, we could have made any type of motion tonight we wanted to, and been okay with it. Lynn?
So 15 and 16, would this be withdrawn from the agenda?
I guess that's all we'd have to do, or just not do any action on them. And then we need
Okay, one's yours,
Right.
and then one's Derek's. Are you guys withdrawing that then?
I have to withdraw mine because there's nothing that can be done on it.
Withdraw.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can do because we cannot
Yeah.
legally go to a one-member district without a referendum of the county. So we need to, we're going to get on this real quick. Yes, Bob?
There's always the option of not reconvene, but come back for a special meeting to
That's what-
vote on 22 members and the
Yep,
reapportionment.
that's what I think we're probably, and let's work through a couple other things here and see what happens maybe in the future, and we can get that, maybe kill two birds at one time. Get two things done at one time. So we're going to move forward.
Which
They're not going to be able to create new districts.
We're because of the time constraints, since we are a multi-member districts when we have to stay multi-member district, so we are at a time crunch.
So it would stay, basically you're saying the same.
We would have to basically stay the same because of the time crunch. That's something we have to discuss at a special meeting or something, but that's basically our only option. I mean, I'm sorry, be a bearer of bad news. I was really looking forward to an odd number of board members. for the issue of just ties, Gary.
Can we just go ahead with our members for the committee and make the adjustments like we did 10 years ago? That,
I was not even thinking about anything going on like this 10 years ago, so I have no idea what you did 10 years ago.
well, we had to even out, we within 10% of the guidelines on each district. We did that ourselves. It's a little time consuming.
Well, Bruce Harris still drew your maps in 2010, 2011. You know, I emailed this board March 17th, 2021 about this issue. And unfortunately, here we are. But Bruce Harris is still going to have to create new maps for us based on our new populations.
Yeah.
So.
But we set the population last time, and then they adjusted the map to what we keep up
Well,
with.
we have all of our population values. I mean, we have all that information. It's just.
Oh.
They have to draw the maps to reorganize the plus or
We
minus
had to
5%.
cut another chunk off Tower Hill and all that, so we can balance the numbers. And,
You okayed the maps that they drew, basically, is what Jessica is saying.
If we fall within the 5%, they won't have to do anything,
Right.
but if we don't, they gotta change it.
Lynn?
Yeah, Jessica, this grant that we have, you said,
You're talking about an agenda item that we're not to yet.
oh,
So let's finish up what we were just discussing. You pulled your motion, correct, Eric?
yeah, we
I
pulled
pulled my
these two motions.
Well, I hadn't went to that one yet.
Okay,
We still had some discussion going on that's on that one. I think we're done with that. We'll have to do something pretty quick.
okay.
Now, we're going to move to the request approval to sign the Bruce Harris and Associates to do the county redistricting maps, when we hopefully get those done in the next, hopefully, couple weeks. Jessica, do you have anything to say?
Essentially, they sent me a proposal to redraw our new maps, $8,012. We will use GIS funds for these, which we have plenty of. So this will be special fund expenses. Basically, this proposal says everything that they'll do. The $8,012 is based on the 11 current districts. They also sent me a proposal when it was mentioned to go to 17 districts, which was the $9,245, but Brian has since talked to Colton at Bruce Harris, so we will be approving the $8,012.
I would say that's what we would have to do tonight, yes.
And essentially, it says we estimate the project can be completed within 2 to 3 months from notice to proceed. So they have not been given notice to proceed at this time.
Yes.
Will that be-
John has the floor.
We need these maps for some other purpose, why are we buying them? If we're not gonna-
They have to redraw, they
Just
have to
like-
redraw our maps.
Just like the state has to redraw the maps for their
Still don't draw
districts.
anyway.
To make sure that the population is as evenly split as it possibly can be in each district, so that non-district doesn't have more control than the other district, or vice versa. That's why we had to have these done. You know, we hear about it, you know, the gerrymandering of the districts, and that's what this basically is. But
So
just
you're
redraw maps.
saying we'll still have the same amount of districts, but they may be different size.
yeah.
They might encompass a different area because, say Shelbyville lost 300 people, or one of the districts of Shelbyville, the one outside gained 300, that map will have to be changed to encompass that and make sure that Shelbyville still had 150 and this one had 150 over here. So it's just a formality that has to be done. I did speak with Colton Harris yesterday, and they know there's a time crunch. They will do everything they can to get this done as quickly as they can for us. If we stay at 22, which unfortunately it looks like we're going to have to members, it'll be a lot simpler and quicker, so we can get everything done quicker. Don?
So if they're drawing a map for 22, we still have to, as a board, vote that we're going to stay at 22? Or
Well-
stay at 11, excuse me?
That will have to be done, but we need to get this voted on tonight so that we can.
I understand
move
that, but I
forward.
mean, basically by telling them we're gonna have 11 districts, that means we're gonna have to come up with a meeting where we say we're
Yes.
do 11 districts, 2
Yes.
members per district.
Yes. Yes.
Why are we having to, we've not changed anything.
But our
The population changed.
Well,
so-
I know the population, but we don't have to pass that we're gonna have 11 districts with 2 members. We're already that. That is our.
You've got to have that passed because the statute says you have to pass that. If we don't pass that, then it goes to somebody else, and they make the decision for us, and it could be, who knows what they make.
25.
25 if you want to.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have to pass this at some point, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that might be coming down the road in the next week that I think we will possibly be having maybe another special, maybe be having a special meeting anyway, and we can combine both of this possible one and this in one meeting and vote on it and get it done, get it sent, but we have to get this passed tonight so that we, I guess in theory, let me, help me out, Jessica. We can table this until we actually pass the 22, the 11 with 2, if we have a special meeting, and then that date, we can go ahead and pass this. And then it's all done at one time, boom, boom, done, if we choose to do that, or we can just go ahead and pass it tonight. It's up to you guys out there on the board.
How much time do they need, did they say?
They said, I mean, their quote says 2 to 3 months from notification to proceed. I talked to Colin today, who's more involved in the map-making process. Colin said, you know, they're going to have to look at our data and everything. He doesn't anticipate, but, you know, I mean, I don't know how many other counties they're unfortunately doing this for right now.
Right.
So it's going to be, I mean, it's
going to be tight.
Yeah.
It's going to be real tight. Mark?
If we have a special meeting, is that going to delay you even more? Going to be too much? If it's a week or 2 weeks?
Well, actually, we can't proceed with what we need to do with our countywide mailing because the state we haven't got notification yet from the state. So what would be ideal is if all this would come together and it could all be done at once.
So I'll either take a motion to approve the quote from Bruce Harris. Rod Height had the motion. Is there a second? Second. Paul? We've had discussion already. Any other further discussion? We kind of did that backwards, but we had to work through it. Bobby?
Just a point of clarification, November 3rd is the deadline for...
Third Wednesday of November.
Third Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. Third Wednesday is the
The
deadline
17th.
for the maps.
The 17th is the whole shebang. It's your maps, it's your compensation, it's your redistricting platform. If you don't do this by November 17th, it goes to your county commission, which is myself, Nicole, a representative from the AG, and the 2 party chairs.
Yeah.
So, all those in favor of hiring Bruce Harris, say aye. Well, this has to be a roll call because it's paying and spending money, correct? We did learn something from you, Bob.
Kenny Barr,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Paul Canady,
Yes.
Brian Kaufman,
Yes.
Dennis Sturdivich,
Yes.
Jesse Durbin,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Gary Gergany,
Yes.
Rod Height,
Yes.
Larry Lenz,
Yeah.
Robert Orman,
Yep.
Gary Patterson,
Yes.
Derek Piercy, John Pope, Robert Simpson,
Yes.
Jeff Slifer,
Yes.
David Switz,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Lynn Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Point of clarification, that was the project to be done at $8,012.
That is correct.
That is correct. Jesse, you're next.
Okay. Farm committee, which right now is just me and Mark. And we had a meeting last Monday, October 4th. And we're both wanting to do, we're wanting the same thing. Something needs to be done out there, but we feel like we need more heads on this. So I'm making the motion, and we both agreed on this, to go to 3 to 5 members.
Is there a second?
I'll see.
Either Mark or Bob, whichever you choose. Any discussion?
I have a question. And I don't mean to throw a ripple in the water, but does this qualify for an amendment to the rules of order? Because the rules of order specify 3 members.
That's why I've got change county board order of business on the agenda.
Thank you, I need glasses.
So I took care of it that way. Good job, Jessica. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Jessica, last main agenda item, to request approval to move Moequa 1 and 2 polling place from the Village Hall in Moequa to the Central England High School for the June 28th and November 8th elections.
I so move.
Gary moves. Rod seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I do have a question, and get to talk about Cold Spring, would be here, anything that,
No,
I mean, they had agreed that
no,
it wouldn't work.
no, we just haven't come up with something for that yet.
All right, any committee reports? I'll start. Like I said earlier, Road and Bridge Committee, we are hoping to start interviewing some prospective individuals in the next week or two, and report back at the next board meeting what we find. Any other committee reports?
Public Buildings Committee, and I don't know whether Sean Lee or Sean Baxter. Why don't you discuss the Omnia Partners situation where we think maybe at the next board meeting we will have a proposal for repairing the elevator so it doesn't fail on us. Go ahead and explain what we're doing now, Sean.
What was suggested by the people that were going to repair the elevator was that we look into what's called a cooperative, just that we join this cooperative to where we can get it cheaper, pretty much is what it was. It was just a registration, an online registration, and it took me about 2 minutes, and all of a sudden we were part of it. So it doesn't cost anything, but it does give us a little bit better access to cheaper of them being able to give us a cheaper proposal. So we're just trying to get that money down and trying to get a proposal from them, and that we'll have to you guys to be able to fix the elevator and get it to where it's not causing the problem that it's having.
That's good. Anything else on it?
Window situation is still up in the air, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. Maybe we'll just let it blow out.
You know, it might be the easiest solution, but who knows? Anyway, are you finished? Okay. Gary?
I attended a meeting last month that I'd like to report on. We're a member of the West Central Development Council, and I attended the first meeting on September 21st, which requires either the chairman or his appointee from the board to be at each one of these meetings.
Kenny goes sometimes. The EDE.
Kenny goes, but there's actually 2 boards. There's a job centers board, and then there's a CE board. And the CEO board is the one who has to make all the decisions for the county, which I think Bobby had to sign a paper this summer for the county that they showed me in their file, like back in June. But anyhow, I went to this meeting on September the 21st. It was a lot of major information that I wasn't expecting because I didn't receive any of this ahead of time. But there's 6 counties in this group, which is Morgan and Scott and Macoupin, Greene, Montgomery, and Shelby. And the 6 of us were all at that meeting, and basically there's 6 counties. They have 5 job centers, and then they have a main office, which is in Carlinville, which is where the meeting was. What I found out when I went to the meeting on the 21st of September is back in about May, the state of Illinois held up the grants to that agency for this year because they hadn't been filling out their reports completely. They just hadn't been following directions, so the DECO had ordered an audit of them by a firm called KEB, which they supplied us a report. They supplied this report to us. It was finished on September the 4th. It was given to us on September the 21st. And so I was given that at that meeting, and we discussed that at length for a long time that evening. And basically all this first report did, it just reported everything that they needed to do, everything they weren't doing, basically just like our audit. It reported all the deficiencies that this agency saw, and they reported it back to the governor's office, and they reported it to the group of managers over there, and then they reported it to the 6 of us that evening along with some of the managers.
Last month, we fired the director.
You fired him, man. Okay, when I went there, he was gone, and I didn't know if he quit or was fired, but he was gone. So you fired him. And that was in August.
What they'll point out to you before long, too, is Shelby County doesn't pay their dues. I've got it paid one time in 10 years.
So there are dues.
Oh, yeah, so much per citizen, but
And see, when I questioned them,
we paid it.
they told me there wasn't any dues, so.
No.
Okay.
We get called out. Christian County and Shelby County are the only two in the organization that.
No, Christian's not in it. Christian's no longer in it. They dropped out.
Well, they moved, yes.
Yes,
We
they
tried to get in with other counties,
They said they had
Effingham.
moved out.
But you'll hear that before long if you haven't yet.
No, because I asked them, they didn't say a word about dues. And basically that evening, they told us that the general manager was gone, and in that report, they were basically asking for that. Whoever the main bookkeeper was, she left the week that I was there. And so somebody who had retired is now the general manager, and they have hired a person from the state to put together a plan. And he's putting together a plan to reorganize it all. And basically, at the meeting I went to, the vote was taken to support the reorganization plan. And then I just got a notice today that next Thursday night, the reorganization plan will be presented. And then whatever the 6 representatives vote next Thursday night will determine what happens. I
Kenny
also
and I
found
go,
out,
you're welcome to ride with us.
Okay.
Because that's,
you guys go to the CEO meeting? Because they told us the job meeting and the CEO meetings are different weeks.
they're different, yeah.
They're like a week apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so
they
this-
weren't going every other month, so I don't know whether, you remember on that, Kenny? Are we still on the every other month on the meetings? He gets to go both times.
If you're going when I go, I definitely want to ride with somebody or Brian, whichever one of us.
It's pretty good savings to the county of, but I meet
Plus, it's a
Kenny
long
over at
drive.
Payne and we ride together.
Yeah, but that would be great if, because
It's got to be either, on this meeting, it's either got to be the board chairman, myself, or whoever I gave the proxy to the vote.
They do a proxy, yeah.
Right.
I gave the proxy
And I had a
to
proxy on
Gary
you,
at the
and I
last,
was too.
and when all this was a mess. I mean, it came up, I was in the combine, I think Gary
It was like
called
Thursday
me and said
before the
something
meeting on
about
Tuesday.
this. Yeah, it was a Tuesday and the meeting was Thursday and these people are panicked because they got to have us there and
Well, I had
I'm
a
going-
regional office of education, and I couldn't
I
make
can't
it
get-
that night.
2 days notice to come to this.
yeah, it was a mess and Gary muddled through it with some valid questions.
I asked
think
him
he's
a million
really
questions.
helped him answer some stuff and
They actually wanted a commitment,
yes,
like money commitment. I said, not without a budget
yeah.
and without board approval. So
Yeah.
that's what the next meeting will be, is they're supposed to have it, which the new manager's name is Chris, and I've been emailing him on a regular basis, and he assures me that they have to put together a plan, which they have. The state had to approve it. Now they have to present it to us, and we have to approve that, or it doesn't go any farther. And they've already given up doing grants. They said they gave that up 4 months ago. They just strictly are 5 job centers now. So they're not in the grant business anymore.
So we'll have more to talk about it in the next board meeting after this meeting soon.
But since I didn't know anything about it, I assumed a lot of you didn't know anything about it, so I wanted to bring it up tonight. And yeah, after next Thursday night, there will be a vote taken and a decision, and I don't know if they're going to combine both boards for that. Have you guys got an invitation yet?
Not that I know of.
Because I just got mine today for the 21st at 5:30. And they said figure on a minimum of 2.5 hours.
All right, thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
How
Any
much
other-
are the dues now? I remember that was pretty hefty.
Oh, I've slept since they paid it one time. It's so much ahead but we've just chosen not to, because we did want to be there, but we still go and Kenny and I's main battle is to keep the job center here. We've almost lost a couple of times. They want to pull it out and put it somewhere else, and we're hurting if we lose it because we're going to cater for any help on jobs if we lose it.
Any other committee reports?
We've got another report here.
Oh, I did not see, Paul, sorry.
Shelby County Airport was put on the map today. During the pouring down rain, 3 Canadian Air Force Sikorsky helicopters, Chinooks, landed at the airport. These helicopters are two-bladed, they're huge. They travel at a rate of 230 miles an hour, and the rain pushed them down. And here they come across the Highway 16 onto the hard surface runway. 30 guys got out of those 3 helicopters.
We've been begging.
And we didn't have a restaurant for them, but anyway, they did take a $3,500 worth of fuel. Whoever was responsible for getting the Jet A fuel on this county board, we thank you very much, because they were very, very thankful that they had to land and they needed fuel and they got it. They were on their way to California to work with the Marines in Palm Desert. From Shelby.
Well, hopefully they remember Shelbyville and talk about us in a good light when they get back to Canada.
He said that fuel bill was just for one of the 3 helicopters.
Wow.
The others didn't need more.
Any other committee reports?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Do we have a finance report tonight?
It was not on the agenda. Did I go over that?
No, it's not on the agenda.
I guess not tonight. Okay. I don't know if these fall under updates or not, but I got an email. I'm not sure if everybody got an email. UCCI is having their fall membership meeting in a fall conference on October 22nd, 23rd at the Abraham Lincoln Library. If anybody would like to attend, I've heard these are great conferences. Unfortunately, I cannot attend because of my commitment on the farm in the middle of October. So,
What date was that?
October 22nd and 23rd. So that is that. Bobby, help me out here if I say something wrong. Windsor Schools is having their poverty simulation exercise on October 29th at 12:30 to 3:30. They've invited the county board members to attend, and this is put on by the help, also in dual conjunction, put on by the Illinois Extension's Cooperative Extension. So if anybody can break away on October 29th, it would be a good thing. We've got the ARPA funds that we're trying to secure and come up with ideas. The department heads, we've asked them to come up with ideas and bring them to us. I would like to assign that part where they bring it to the Fees and Salaries Committee and the Miscellaneous and Ambulance to look through those and try to bring a few ideas then back to the county board that we can try to see if we can obtain the funding through that. That way we're not all trying to muddle through 15 million different ideas. So hopefully when that starts, time frame was pushed back on that again. So it was more important a month ago than it is now, just because the timeline's changed again. And if everything passes on the chairman appointments tonight, I just want to say all the main committees are filled. Everybody's at capacity. That's if everything gets passed. Other than that, I have nothing else. Chairman appointments now. Robert Orman to the Finance Committee. I take that motion for that. Gary, second by Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Lynn Williams to the Fees and Salaries. Motion, second. Don, we got Kenny with the motion. Don, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Jeff Slifer to the Farm Committee. Jesse's motion. Mark seconds. All those in favor, well, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bobby Orman to the Farm Committee. Anybody make a motion? Mark? Jesse? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Brian Kaufman to the Farm Committee. Anybody make a motion? Mark? Jesse, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Julie Edwards to the Airport Committee. We got Paul seconding it. Any, is a motion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And Don Tate to the Legislative Committee. Anybody make that motion? Jeff? Mark will second. Anybody? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we've got Mark Byers to the Combined Drainage District Number 2, Town of Tower Hill. I'm assuming that's what ED stood for. In my world, usually that stood for something different. So, we have a motion to do that. Mark, a second. Don? All those in favor? I knew you were going to have a question.
How long is that term?
Trying to sneak it through.
I believe it's the full 3-year term. Devin filed it, I got it in here somewhere.
It's probably right then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 3-year term.
Are you taking a word for it?
I work with Dustin on that.
Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. I really have no correspondence that I saw this month. We have a motion to approve the claims.
So moved.
Second. Don, any discussion? Mark?
I want to say thank you to Lynn for taking care of the responsibility this month.
Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's roll call, sorry. I slipped on that one.
Kenny Barr,
Yes.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Paul Candidate, Brian Kaufman,
Yes.
Dennis Sturdivich,
Yes.
Jesse Durbin,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Gary Gergany,
Yes.
Rod Height,
Yes.
Larry Lenz, Bobby Mormon,
Yes.
Gary Patterson,
Yes.
Derek Piercy,
Yes.
John Pope,
Yes.
Robert Simpson,
Yes.
Jeff Slifer,
Yes.
David Switz,
Yep.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Lynn Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion passes. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? Bobby? Larry, seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, it's no problem.
Just a reminder, your meeting next month is on Wednesday at 7, not Thursday because of the holiday.
It's Thanksgiving, too.
It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.